Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Patriot Underground here. Today's June 29th, 2021, and I am coming at you once again from my car. And hopefully, you guys are enjoying these coffee chats. This is really what I have time for right now. I know there are a lot of folks out there who are awaiting the next installment in some of the series that I'm doing. People have shared that they are hoping that I get back to that, and I certainly will, although my schedule right now is quite busy. So sitting down and being able to do those types of preparations is something that I just haven't really had a lot of time for. However, I've been on the road quite a bit, and since I have the ability to communicate with you folks now clearly from my vehicle, which you know I love to do, I figured reports like these hopefully would be welcomed by folks in the meantime. And a lot of people out there are really enjoying the format. So thank you so much for the support, and thank you so much for the comments as always. Hopefully you folks enjoyed the interview I did last night, or the discussion that I had with Omega. And I think he's a really, really interesting guy. I think he has some nice perspectives, and I really think it's great to have more and more people involved and getting involved in the conversation. And I certainly welcome anybody out there who's listening right now in the audience. And I've said this before, but certainly I think it's important to state again. I welcome anybody out there who has that type of ambition and wants to get involved in the conversation to contact me. And I'm certainly willing to set up a meet with you, set up a Zoom meeting, and just have kind of an informal conversation first. And then if we decide that we want to record, that's what we'll do. That's exactly what Omega did. He reached out to me. We had a little conversation and started recording. And I think it evolved into, both conversations, I think, evolved into really good substantive discussions about what's happening in the world right now. And I think a lot of people really appreciated that. So if you're out there and you have similar ideas and you're just kind of looking for a way to get started, by all means, I would welcome you on my platform. And I think the more, the merrier, as they say. The more voices we have, the more perspectives we have, the more that we can learn from one another. I think it's wonderful, absolutely wonderful. So please, those of you out there who are interested in that, contact me. Again, my email is patriotunderground2021@gmail.com. You can also reach out to me through Telegram. My Telegram channel is same thing, at Patriot 21. At Patriot Underground 2021, and it's very, very exciting. I'm seeing all of the different channels that I have growing each day. It's very, very gratifying to see on YouTube and on BitChute, and even on Rumble now. I'm coming close to about 3,000 subscribers on Rumble, so this is very, very exciting. Podbean is growing. I have a few hundred followers there. So if you're listening to this and you haven't followed me on Podbean yet, if you haven't checked out that platform, it's a really good one. In fact, for my on-the-go content, like the coffee chats, really the best platform in terms of audio quality. So please follow me there if you could. And of course, also, if you have the ability to make a small donation, either through PayPal or through Patreon, the links are in the description. Or actually, the links will be in my About page. I stopped putting the links in every single video, but you can find it in my About page. If you can make a small donation, that would really, really help me out, and I would really appreciate it. And those of you who have done that, God bless you. Thank you so much. Really, thank you so much. All of the progress that I've been able to make right now in terms of upgrading my equipment and being able to purchase some editing software, and all the things that I've been able to do right now is directly because of your contributions. And I'm just so grateful for it. So folks out there, even if you can make a small contribution, even if it's whatever it is that you can do to help me out and to propel this journey forward for me and help me manifest this vision for this platform, because I really have a grand vision ultimately for what I'd like to accomplish. And it really has to do with being a platform for we the people. And I have a lot of different ideas, but of course it takes time, and it takes supporters, and it certainly takes capital as well. So if you can help me out, God bless you. Thank you so much. I'd appreciate it. Okay, so before I decided to hop on and record today, I was doing what I normally do, is to get informed myself, listening to some of my favorite podcasts. I was listening to the X22, latest episode of X22, and Dave always has some excellent information. I'm hoping one day I can have a conversation with him. I'd love to sit down with him and have a chat. It'd be great. But anyway, he was talking about, one of the things that really jumped out to me that he talked about was there's a recent poll that came out through Reuters having to do with the percentage of the American people that actually trust the media. And it's now up to 71% of Americans are saying that they do not trust the mainstream media. And that to me was really, really eye-opening, because I don't think I've ever heard a number that high. I certainly heard upwards of 50%, but I've never heard 71%. That's amazing. That's almost 3 out of 4 people are saying now that they don't trust the mainstream media. That is huge in terms of, if you're looking for evidence that people are waking up, as I am, look no further, because people are tuning. First of all, they're probably not even tuning in to the mainstream media, but of course, as we know, it gets force-fed everywhere you go. But people are saying they're rejecting it. They don't believe that they're being told the truth. And so much of the deep state's power, as I've been saying, and Dave made this point this morning or last night, the reason that the deep state still has power is because they still have the megaphone of the mainstream media, and of course, all the other different tentacles of the deep state, like big tech. And he also mentioned the big corporations, the sports institutions, the organizations, I should say. So they still control these institutions and organizations, and that's why they have power, but their power really hinges upon being able to control the narrative so that they can manipulate people and keep them trapped inside of their mind control. But as we can see, I mean, and by the way, Reuters, of course, is an establishment outlet. If an establishment outlet is coming out with those kind of figures, that almost I'm just going to go ahead and say it, that 3 out of 4 Americans aren't buying what the media is selling, the deep state's got a real, real big problem. And they understand that. They know that. That's why alternative media is exploding everywhere. That's why even a normal, average, everyday American like myself can hop on and make a recording and have folks tune into it without having to go through any of the red tape of the mainstream media. And that's the appeal, is that American to American. That's what people want. That's what people want to hear. They're sick and tired of the information that's coming, that's filtered through this corporate propaganda machine. It's not, and more folks are recognizing this. And I think we have, in large part, we have President Trump to thank for that. And Dave talked about how he was really the one who coined the term fake news. And at the time, a lot of people scoffed at it, laughed at it, thought that it was a big joke. But what Trump did was he pointed out that the mainstream media is fake, that the news, that the information is fake, that the reporters are the enemy of the people. And though it took a little bit of time, look at what's happened. Now all of a sudden, you've got 3 out of 4 Americans aren't believing what the mainstream media is selling. That, to me, that's coffin nails for the deep state. Because now that their revenue sources have dried up, now that they can't engage in the human trafficking and the adrenochrome because of the alliance, thank God, and because of the rollout and implementation of the quantum financial system, their economic power is being taken away. Once their megaphone has been hacked to pieces, and is that process heating up right now. They're done. They're absolutely done. It's game over. Game, set, match, checkmate, however you want to say it. Because once they have lost the ability to control the narrative, and the American people no longer believe what they hear on TV. But what power is left? What do they have left? Well, of course there are other threats. And I talked about this last night with Omega, and I think we had a really good conversation and back and forth on what threats still exist. And he's very big on that, talking about how things are going to unfold once the Q plan, once the big reveal happens, what are people's reactions going to be? And we need to be prepared for that. And I absolutely agree. But this information is definitely going to be difficult, if not impossible, for the American people to swallow. And that's even with people not believing the mainstream media. And I've been talking about this quite a bit lately. But Trump knew exactly what he was doing this entire time. And I think one of the things that Dave pointed out that I think I wanted to amplify to my audience is that Trump never does what the next expected move, what people expect him to do. People speculate about this and that, what's going to happen here, what's going to happen there. And Trump understands the way that people have married themselves to their expectations. He manipulates that in order to keep the deep state off balance. And I think it's very, very important to understand that this is asymmetric warfare. This is information warfare, and it really hinges upon deception. And I've talked in the past about how the alliance understood, going back many decades, they came to the understanding that in order to defeat the enemy, they needed to engage the enemy in irregular warfare, in information warfare, in the same type of deception that they were attacking the American people with, and all of humanity for that matter. They needed to fight back in kind. And that's why Trump was the perfect man, divinely ordained, in my opinion, for this type of job. He was the perfect man for the job because he knows exactly how to game the enemy. You see, the media, they sought to turn Trump into a buffoon, and they did everything that they could to try to convince the public that he was stupid. But the fact of the matter is, and they know this, by the way, Trump is a genius with an IQ that's completely off the charts. It's what they call a stable genius. He knew exactly not only what the deep state what might be anticipating, but also what the American people, including the Patriots, might be anticipating. And Trump understood that in order to keep the enemy off guard, he needed to also keep us off guard. And that, of course, served the dual purpose of getting us to wake up and us to pay attention and to shake off the apathy and demand change and to get more active and involved in our own lives. I've talked about this as well. So the strategy here, yes, it's frustrating for us. We just want justice. The Patriots out there, we just want justice. We want justice, and we want it now. And that's our mindset. And I think that Trump and the White Hats, I do believe that they're sympathetic to that, but they also understand that there's far too much at stake to simply cater to what we want. Because if they were to do that, well, mistakes could be made. They need to do this methodically for many different reasons. To keep the enemy off guard, to slowly wake up and prime the mind, prime the pump inside the mind of the American public, to prepare them for what's going to happen, to prepare them for all of the information that's going to come cascading at them. And yes, I do believe that this information is going to probably start coming out more and more and more, but certainly by the end of the summer, I do believe, without any major curveballs, and of course, we've seen plenty of those, so there could be, But given where we stand right now, the audit information is coming out in August. That's what the officials are saying. The reports are going to come out in August. And I do believe that everything that's going to occur from today all the way up until the day that these audits, this information comes out, is all going to be geared toward an accelerated attempt to get people ready for what's going to unfold. And there's going to be a whole bunch of disinformation, and a lot of this disinformation you could probably expect is going to come from Trump. You see, Trump doesn't do things. Ultimately, Trump's goal is to change the world, is to save not only this country, but to save this planet and humanity. So while he's sympathetic to the things that the Patriots and what's on our mind, what's in our hearts, he also knows that he has to keep us off guard in order to keep the enemy off guard. And he can't give us everything that we want, because if we got everything that we wanted, the change that we're hoping for probably ultimately wouldn't happen. Or even if it did, it wouldn't be sustained. And I've talked about this many, many times. If we don't go through this meat grinder, if we don't have this near-death experience, and yes, I do think that we're going to experience an event, perhaps several events, that could be a myriad of different things. I've speculated about what they possibly could be, but I do believe we're going to experience some major, major disruptions in our lives. Some very scary, upsetting things are going to happen. And I'm going to keep talking about this to remind my audience, even if I have to, multiple times a week, because I think that this is probably the most important thing that folks need to hear right now. As we approach the big reveal, there's going to be false flag events. There's going to be disinformation in hyperdrive, hyperspeed propaganda. And people need to get ready. Patriots need to understand what's coming. And know that everything that's going to happen has been pre-planned. That doesn't mean that everything that's going to happen is 100% determined, like there aren't any variables. I just said a moment ago, I think that there is a lot of different variables, a lot of things that they don't necessarily know how they're going to unfold. And that's why we need to be prepared. We really need to be at a heightened sense of awareness and on a heightened sense, on a heightened alert, if you will, as patriots right now, and have our head on a swivel, because the deep state, of course, we know they're going to do everything that they possibly can to derail this truth coming out. Everything that they possibly can. These people are purely evil. They don't care about the consequences of what they do. The only thing that they care about is escaping. At this point, I mean, ultimately they want to exterminate all of us, but they feel the noose tightening. They can sense that the walls are closing in on them. And the only thing that they care about at this point is escaping justice. Like rats on a sinking ship. And they're going to do anything that they can. And they still have a legitimate amount of power. Of course. Their power has been radically reduced to the point where I do believe that militarily speaking, they've all been taken out. Doesn't mean that they don't still have some assets, some paramilitary sort of forces, things like that. Not to mention the MK Standing Army, which Gene told us about, which of course ties in with the Jabberoo. But I'm not going to go down that road now. But certainly there are threats that still do exist. So we need to be prepared for those. And yet ultimately at the same time, I do believe that militarily the cabal has been bested. They've been defeated. But their power structure hasn't been completely dismantled. And that can only happen by we the people. So I think that the military and the alliance, they've essentially done their job. And now we need to do our job, and which we are, which is to raise this army of patriots, this digital army, digital family, however you want to phrase it, to increase awareness and to educate people and to teach people about what actually has been going on all this time and all the different avenues of the ways that they have been deceived and manipulated and tricked and hoodwinked and targeted and weakened and sickened and killed. Of course, those folks, I really feel badly for the people ultimately who came so close but didn't quite make it to this point. Because what we're going to witness, as I've said many times, I don't think there's a word that can really describe it. You could say epic, you could say biblical, you could say unprecedented. And it is all of those things, but I don't even think that any of those terms even do justice to what we're going to witness. We're going to see the world really change. And what's the best part about that is that we get to be the drivers of that change. We get to be at the tip of the spear in terms of the education and the healing and the reorganization of this republic. Think about what a responsibility that is and what a blessing that is. I've talked about the role of Patriots quite a bit lately. And there are some folks who have reached out and said that they have never really thought of themselves as being in a leadership position, that they just are glad that they know things and they're prepared ahead of time. But after hearing my analysis, they're starting to warm up to this idea that the same people that laughed at them and mocked them and marginalized their viewpoints on all these different issues are going to be looking at them almost as if they were prophets that I mentioned last night. They're going to be looking to them for guidance all of a sudden. And I think that's when a lot of people out there who have kind of been beaten down by being a patriot in this world and in this society, kind of to the point where they have more or less stopped really trying to engage with a lot of the public about any of these issues. And I don't blame them. I think a lot of people are going to be really surprised when these same people come to them looking for answers. And that's what I mean by leadership. You're going to be in a position, you have information, you understand things that they're not going to understand, and they're going to be desperate to understand. They're going to be desperate to know what you know. And so therefore, you're going to have an amazing amount of power to be able to help people heal and to understand what happened. I don't think that there's any way to really overstate how important that role is. And as important as our leadership, I mean, our great divinely ordained president, to our military, thank God for our brave men and women in uniform all over the world, to the non-terrestrials that have prevented our full-scale destruction at the hands of the cabal. All of those great leaders we have to, and great individuals, whether they be human or not, we have to acknowledge their heroism, but we also have to acknowledge, I believe, that we ourselves are going to be looked at as heroes. Because people are going to remember that we tried to warn them. People are going to remember that we tried to tell them the truth. People are going to remember all the things that we said, and that they laughed and they thought that we were crazy and insane. And trust me, folks, when I tell you, people are going to have a whole lot of remorse for the way they regarded you and the way that they treated you for speaking the truth. See, we live in a world now where speaking the truth, to say it's frowned upon is to put it mildly. Speaking the truth is dangerous in this world as we currently know it. And yet you found a way to rise above that fear, to rise above all of those negative influences, all those negative vibrational frequencies, and people trying to drag you down, people trying to tell you that you didn't know what you were talking about, people trying to convince you that you were crazy, people trying to convince you that you didn't really know anything, and that all of your information was based upon nuts. Well, they're going to be suddenly looking to you for answers. And I believe that that's going to happen. If not overnight, it's going to happen, I think, within very, very short time. Once people have face the initial impact and the initial jolt of all the information and have their initial emotional responses to it, after that, that's the point where they're going to start looking for answers. Now, a lot of people are going to be looking for reasons to deny and reject. And we have to understand that makes sense. A lot of people, that's really I think it's the first stage in the grieving process, which is denial. So even when all this truth comes out, there are going to be a lot of folks who are going to be in denial at first. That's just their initial emotional response. But once the initial emotional reaction and psychological jolt has passed, it's human nature to then seek more information and more truth. And who do you think they're going to go to? Of course, they're going to be listening at that point. I believe all of our communications are probably going to go down. All the normal avenues that people seek out information are going to be shut off. And then we're going to have the emergency broadcast system. But other than that, people are going to have their friends and neighbors. They're going to be relying upon their family, their friends, their neighbors, the people closest to them to help them navigate. And not just in the initial phases either. In the weeks and months and perhaps even years after that it's going to take to really heal this country and put this country back together. I don't think it's going to be overnight that everybody is just going to get thrown inside of a med bed and be healed from all this psychological trauma and physical ailments and so forth. It's going to take time. And during that time period, I think all of the patriots who have sacrificed all these years are going to finally get with the respect that they deserve. And it's not about getting respect. It's not about an individual ego gratification. As I always say, it's about the recognition of the truth. Because in the end, the truth is the only thing that really matters. And we've been deprived, not only have we been deprived of the truth, but we've been forced to live inside a world devoid of the truth. I guess you could say that's more or less the same thing, but we have been placed into an existence where the truth is attacked viciously. And I keep wondering to myself, what's it going to be like to live in a world where that isn't the case anymore? Isn't that going to be an amazing place to live when you just don't have to worry? I mean, think about all the things that are on your mind right now. What are the things that are clouding up your mind? Your stress. You've got your job, you've got your finances, you've got probably your health concerns. Even if you're healthy, probably, concerned about, all the things that could hurt you out there. And then, of course, there's the general situation that's causing us all this stress. But imagine living in a world where we just didn't have to face the same stressors that we're so accustomed to dealing with every single day. Just amazing to think about. Absolutely amazing. All right, so hopefully you guys enjoyed. I just wanted to get on here for a little while, and I'm almost to my destination here, so I'm going to sign off. I wanted to share some thoughts with you. Hopefully you enjoyed. Please let me know in the comments, and as I say, please do everything that you can to support the channel. Spread the links to the show, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Consider making a small donation if you can, and I will be back soon. I'm not sure when my next video is going to be because I will be going away for a few days for the celebration of our nation's birthday. But hopefully I can do a on-the-road chat when I'm up there. We'll see. But either way, I'll be back soon. Thank you so much for listening. God bless each and every one of you. Patriot out.